I'm writing dialogue, it's usually any character or foil where I'm like, these characters are like, they come from they come from different backgrounds, and so now they have something interesting to say, or they have jagged edges, like when when they're upset with each other, or so in Coliseum Arcanist, there's an instance where Volk he has a few confrontations with Fane, the pirate, and I liked a lot of those dialogue interactions because they were, different or interesting. I guess I don't want to spoil the book for people that are waiting for the audiobook, but there are lots of instances where they talk about their lives or something like that, where I was like, oh, this is funny dialogue. I like this.
So as far as favorite ones to voice, Nicolin is fun because he's just so over the top, and he's so just not naive. I can't even think of the word. He's blinded to himself. He's just kind of he's just so over the top.
I would go with that.
Yeah, he's that too. He definitely has a sense of himself that may or may not reach. That may or not be ridiculous. So in general, on a broad sense, the characters I enjoy the most are Volk when he is being flustered by the women around him. When he's in a situation where he is very out of his element with the female of the species, and it's fun to have him be so confident the rest of the time, except in this, and it's just like oh, and he turns into, and I just think complete anime, like oh god, and like the sweat flying.
There's so many sweat drops.
Yes, and just getting nuts, and we get some of that in Coliseum Arcanist, so it was fun.
I was just thinking, I think Coliseum Arcanist has more of that. I mean, I know that the Dread Pirate had a scene that was kind of like that, but there's an entire new character introduced in Coliseum.
Yes.
I mean, I guess this isn't that big of a spoiler, but she's kind of like a prostitute dancer singer, so and then she interacts a lot with Volk throughout the book.
Yes, but I'd say tied with that, or maybe even edging it out a little bit, are any of the plagued creatures.
I've always loved your voice for the plagued creatures.
They're so much fun because it's just a chance to go completely over the top, and just like they're insane, so there's no need to hold back at all. As a microcosm, because you had said something about there being like the dialogue between characters is where it really gets fun. And there are two very specific scenes in Coliseum Arcanist that are the opposite ends of the emotional spectrum that I loved doing the voices for. And I don't want to go any deeper than that because one's just a very, very funny moment that, and I posted my reaction to it. I have a video of it. And I was reading it and I got to that line and I just died laughing. I had to stop. And I had to walk away because it was just like, are you kidding? It was like that laughing for 5 minutes straight where I couldn't stop. And I think I messaged you too because it was just like, oh my God, this is great.
That's what I'm talking about with the banter or the characters in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, this only became funny because so many characters were involved.
Yeah, and it was the situation. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, but it was definitely the situation of, I mean, obviously Volk is the main character, so it was Volk having a conversation, something else was happening, it was like, and then there's another scene that very quite literally, when you get a chance to listen to the audiobook, I was crying while I was reading it. I was melting down, but in the best possible way because it was a very emotional scene, and that was a lot of fun as well to do. Annie, thank you very much. Annie says she likes my plague voices, and they're fun. So, and it's a complete and total homage to Mark Hamill. So,
yeah, his Joker from that like '90s Batman cartoon. That's exactly what I thought the moment I heard it. I was like, oh, I like this.
There's video of the Star Wars Celebration where they had Mark Hamill out, and someone asked him to do the scene between Vader and Luke spoilers: Vader is Luke's father.
Oh my God.
And but someone had asked him what if instead of it being Darth Vader, what if it were the Joker? And he did it. He basically did the Joker and Luke Skywalker having this confrontation in Cloud City with the big reveal, and it was, it's great because it's amazing how he just ramps up into that voice, just cranks up to 11 at a
Yeah.
moment's notice.
He said that his favorite voice acting roles was when he got to voice villains.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just a random question to you, because I've always wanted to ask: do you prefer voicing the villains, or do you prefer voicing the good guys?
I think I prefer the villains. They're fun. I the heroes are fun, and when the heroes have good dialogue that's driven by character, they're very fun to voice, and not just because that you and I are having the conversation right now, but Volk is like that, where he is a three-dimensional character, who is shaped by reading all of these stories as a kid, of all the swashbucklers, which are basically almost like sports heroes, right? You're reading about, all the different sports figures, like, oh, I want to be like Mike, right? Or, or Bonos,
Yeah.
or, oh, I'm dating myself a little bit, but it's also very easy for heroes to get very two-dimensional and just be, I'm the good guy because I'm the good guy. And bad guy is the same thing. I'm the bad guy because I'm the bad guy, or I'm the bad guy who's the hero of my own story. But not given that, though, bad guys are just fun because they usually have some fun dialogue, or they have some fun lines. And usually there's some personality quirks there. So anytime I get a chance to just completely just let loose, where there is, if you want to give the description you gave me for one of the plagued creatures in Coliseum Arcanist, I will let you give that. But the way you described it to me was hilarious, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it was fun doing that character. And there's something you do in voice acting called a lead-in, where it's like, before you say the line, you might say a few lines that are just ad-lib to kind of ramp up to that. And I had to do some of that for this, but if you heard that, it would have been like, Jesus, what is he doing in there?
I guess it is a minor, spoiler, but you can't derive anything from the story from this, but there is a plague-ridden Rizzle, so, just like Nicholin, only it's a plague-ridden one, and I messaged Brian and I said that it was beta readers had called him Cocaine Nicholin, so that was his description. It was just a very evil version of Nicholin, basically. So Cocaine Nicholin, that's how I'll always remember that character and encounter from the book. So it was definitely good times.
So all of my lead-ins were, this is great stuff, just really getting just man, I go, okay, I gotta get in that mode. He had some fun lines. They calling people meat bag and stuff like that. It was just like, oh my God, it was okay. So I was on the lookout for that for the entire book. I was like, when do we get to meet him?
Definitely hilarious.
Got to have some fun with
that. There's a character in the scene that he calls Meatbag.
Mm-hmm. That was fun.
There's a character in the scene he calls Meatbag, but since Volk doesn't know his name, they just call him Meatbag even in the narration. So it was fun.
Well, I mean, listen, it's an identifier. So I'll ask you, what was the whole genesis of the Frith Chronicles as a whole? When you were thinking about what was the seed that was planted that actually allowed this to grow into this magic system, into this world?
I know this is gonna sound sad or something, but I well, not even sad, but I made a tabletop game. Mm-hmm. So I was DMing for quite some time, and we played D&D, but then I wanted to do my own homebrew style game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I did it like a Portal fantasy. So, people from real world go over to a magical system with one of my friends, and everybody liked it, and we still play it to this day. We've been playing it for like 15 years, and it is a more complicated version of the Frith Chronicles. So
Oh, okay.
even in my friend group, I sometimes refer to the Frith Chronicles as Evian Light, because Evian is the name of my homebrew system. So some people are like, "Oh, your Evian Light books," and I'm like, "Yeah," because they're
Looks like we're having some latency issues at the moment, and my dog is getting into trouble. So, yeah, it looks like we might have a bit of a breakdown in the communication. That's okay. Well, I'll say as I've been narrating this stuff, there is definitely in my head. Oh, we lost Shami for just a second, but that's okay. It'll be fine. Oh, there she is. She's back. Hey. It happens. It's okay.
Trouble with Zoom the entire time.
It happens. So you had said it was basically the light version of your homebrew. And I was saying that, yeah, I mean, it really reads.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to say it reads as
so
it does. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Homebrew is a lot more.
Man, Zoom is just.
Oh, well,
awful.
I was just gonna say it's just an easier version of that.
Zoom is being absolutely terrible right now.
And then the internet is gonna cut out again, so you'll see.
Oh no.
Zoom is gonna cut out.
One of them. Yeah. Something. Yeah, I think it's like when I've seen. Oh, actually, hang on. Here we have another question here. Let's see. I actually really want to try your tabletop a choice of what you bond with and powers and all that. When will it be available for purchase? I'll laugh out loud. You said it being a playtested a year at Concrete. So is there actually an RPG rule set that goes with this? And Twitch is going to keep us from being able to know the answer.
Yeah. We have an entire. I mean, I've got binders and binders of. Sorry, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
It is. It keeps on. Yeah.
There's an entire rule set. There's I have tons and tons of work and binders and everything about it.
Very cool.
But,
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe someday I can, package it in a more manageable thing and sell it. But sorry, Zoom is being weird. So if I just start talking over you, I don't mean to.
No, it's fine. I completely understand. Zoom is being Zoom. So yeah, we I was saying as I've been going, I've had the opportunity to essentially read all the books, right? And it's like, it definitely has a very gamified feel, and I don't mean that in like the lit RPG way, which tends to be very, very level up, and it's very obvious when it's happening. But you can see there's a progression there. But to me, I didn't realize that there was. I didn't realize that Genesis was tabletop, and I didn't realize that you were working on a rule set, which is very cool because as I'm going through this, it's like this really feels like it has the platform to be there for other. It has the ability to be a platform for other extensions of it, whether it's an RPG, a video game. I'd love to see a video game of it. Things like that. It just seems like, yeah, I mean, I could see where. You start the game and you get to choose. You're trying to figure out, which animal or which creature you're going to bond with, or the different skill trees that with the 3 major branches and all that. So I think that would be a very cool RPG to see developed at some point. And wow, Zoom is being awful right now. So,
Yeah, it's really laggy on my end, so again, I apologize if I talk over you, but
Yeah.
yeah. We've done my homebrew tabletop for, I want to say close to 15 years. So
Wow.
we already have a lot of work put into it and a lot of play testing. And like I said, most people enjoy it. So
Very,
it's
very
typically
cool.
regarded as fun. And that's the goal of any tabletop, is to be fun.
Ultimately, yeah. Yeah. It's just someone the other day, I was on Twitter, they were posting screenshots from a Kickstarted RPG system, and I didn't get really deep into it. I don't even know what it is. So, but they talking about the rule sets within the RPG and like the different ways that oh, it's this kind of skill, or it's this kind of skill, and they're using dialogue to show like how the rules work, which is something typical. You see that in D&D books all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it what was funny is that the dialogue was, it actually seemed like the players who were playing the game in the dialogue, that the people who wrote were like getting mad at their GM and didn't like the game. And it was it's like, I think you guys need to reread your dialogue here, because this is what you wrote, and it seems like even you don't like the rules that you made. So maybe you need to tweak that a little bit.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I know you DM because you do your stream every Sunday, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, getting the rules right, having the rules be balanced, people arguing about the rules, that's part and parcel for
Oh yeah.
tabletop games. So
Oh yeah. But I think that's part of it, is when you figure it out. Like if you follow Jeremy Crawford on Twitter, who's the rules designer for D&D, you know, he's saying this is what the rules say, and this is what it is, and and then he always, you know, basically says, but if the DM wants to do something different, it's okay. You know, and it's like, and it's, yeah, the rules lawyering and all that, and you know, it's always, we have, you know, it's always fun to have some discussions about that. But
well, I don't know if you know this, but I went to law school and I worked as an attorney for a while, and one of the other players at the table, he's an attorney, so
oh
there
no.
there are lots of times when we'll talk about the rules in a that's probably too much discussion for rules kind of way.
If you guys don't start the Rules Lawyer podcast immediately, it is a huge missed opportunity. I'm just saying. To
No, well,
have
nobody likes talking about rules at the game table. Why would you?
no,
Why
no,
would you
not at the
want to
table.
listen to a
Oh,
podcast
I think it
about
would be
it?
amazing to hear two lawyers debating the rules of an RPG. I think that would be I think that'd be fantastic. I think that would be amazing.
Well, we've had weirder discussions. I think these are just discussions every D&D player has ever had ever, though. But like, you know, if everybody takes their turn and then they pass an apple to one another, and theoretically everybody could take their turn, you know, one after another, so you could have an infinite amount of people passing an apple all the way around the world in like 6 seconds. That apple could reach light speed and kill a person because how the rules are written.
Yep, the way the rule, I've heard it referred to as the peasant railgun.
Yeah, exactly. Where
And
you're like,
where
that's
if everyone
preposterous.
holds action until, you know, because that's the thing, is you can hold action, and then you send up
Yeah.
you set up peasants, a mile long line of peasants, and you hand the end one a spear, and they're all standing, and as soon as they get the spear, they pass it, and because of the hold action, the idea is that the spear will travel 1 mile in 6 seconds, because that's how long a round is.
Yes.
And if you're going a mile every 6 seconds, times that by 10, so that gets you to 600 miles per minute times 60 is, so yeah, you're gonna be able to launch this spear, you know, 10 miles away. You basically have artillery. Um,
Yeah.
so
So,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's the classic example of how the rules are kind of preposterous when you think about them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, there's a piece of me that's like, nobody wants to listen to that for like an hour.
But
to
so when I first heard the term peasant railgun, though, I didn't know that's what they were talking about, and my initial thought was a railgun that was using peasants as the ammo.
they were killing people. Oh
Jesus
my
Christ.
god, not people.
So no, I'm sorry, that's Game of Thrones. Completely, completely different. Um, well, I guess the good side is the Coliseum Arcanist audiobook got released before the next book in A Song of Ice and Fire, so not
Yeah.
quite as long.
Yeah, whoa, we did it before George R. Martin. You're doing it.
We finished it before Patrick Rothfuss could finish the King Killer Chronicles. So, this is good. These are all, we gotta look at the positives here. So,
Yes.
do you have an overall idea of how long the Frith Chronicles will be? Do you have an overall story arc in mind about how many books that might be, or is it the idea that you're just going to keep writing as long as you want to keep on writing for it?
I had an outline for the first 5 books, and I know basically where I want the 5 books to be.
Mm-hmm.
The sales on the series have been good, so I'll probably continue it for after the 5th book. But I did, when I did this outline and I got everything set up, I was like, if it doesn't sell well, you can also just end it at book 5 because it has a natural conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense,
Mm-hmm.
like you could read Nightmare Arcanist as a standalone book, but technically it's much better in a series.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a piece of me that's like, this series could end at book 5, but I think that it would be better if it continued beyond book 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that the sales continue. I hope people keep enjoying it, because I think I could probably make 3 or 5 more books after that. But
Mm.
at a certain point, I think I would end it. And if I wanted to continue stories in the, the Frith Chronicles world, so to speak, I would probably change it, like the main character, to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and start a new story, even if all the other characters you like are in the background doing stuff, because I actually really like continuation series, like a series within the same world where you can see the same characters from the original series.
Mm-hmm.
I've always liked that very much as a reader, so I thought, maybe.
Okay.
But so right now, it's 5 books for sure, and then probably 7 to 10, as long as people are still enjoying them.
Well, I like it. I'm okay with this. Um, so are you seeing like 5 books as like part of like a story arc, and then if you decide to go to book 6, this would be a new story arc? Like, obviously you can't ignore the history, but it would be like, all right, now we're gonna do a different plot arc for this, or would you see this plot arc just extending out to being a longer series?
Well, I don't want to get into like a ridiculous amount of spoilers, but
Mm-hmm.
I the one of the things that I feel like, if you've read the first 2 books at least, and then especially if you read the 3rd book, um, the 5 books deal with why that arcane plague has showed up, what the purpose of it is, and what the evil
Mm-hmm.
organization is hoping to get out of this. And at the end of the 5th book, a lot of that isn't, it's concluded, but obviously it's not like, and then they defeated everybody and the arcane plague is no more. That's not how it ends, but it does end in kind of a way where you're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It can easily continue beyond that, but at the same time, you might be able to say like, oh, well, just pretend everything worked out.
It's fine.
Everybody did a thing and it was great. So I guess it is more of like a, I mean, I guess to liken it to anime more like, and then it was an anime arc, and then another arc would take its place after
Mm-hmm.
that, which I think it would be really interesting to continue. But
Mm-hmm.
I would have to get into specific spoilers, I guess, at this point to be.
No, we don't do that.
Like, this is why it's really interesting to me, but hopefully other people are enjoying it. Because I feel like the first book and the second book, if you just read those 2 and you didn't read any more, you might not realize that there was a larger story being told.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first book is mostly to do with Volk and how he interacts with the world,
Mm-hmm.
and introduce the arcane plague in a really memorable way. And then the second book is really to introduce more of the world and talk about Ilya and her role in it. And while the main story is happening in the background, it's not in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might be like, oh, there's no overarching plot. This is just a bunch of stories individually woven together.
Mm-hmm.
In book 3, it's very clear. I think it's very clear. Maybe, I'm just over here being like, oh, it's an author. I made it very clear, but some people might be like, oh, I didn't get it. But in the 3rd book, I think I make it very clear that there is a bigger story that they're involved with. And then the 4th book, if they just get deeper into the story, and obviously the 5th book, we would see that.
No, I think you can see that, where it's you're not blasting someone in the face with plot right off the bat, because you're introducing a new world, new characters, and not that it's impossible to deliver a single plot in a single book, but for what you're writing, yeah, I mean, you teased at it, and you laid the groundwork for it in a way that's obvious that it was going somewhere, but it wasn't like, the launch trajectory wasn't straight up. It was more of a more of a gentle curve, which can be fun. So
Well,
as long as you don't get into Robert Jordan territory, it's gonna be a trilogy. Really, really, Robert, really. Because the
well,
Wheel of Time was supposed to be a trilogy.
10 books later.
15! 15 books later! He died before it finished. They had to get someone else to finish it. I mean, God rest his soul. I mean, I'm not trying to, because I mean, listen, that's like some of the fantasy I cut my teeth on. But dude, how in what world was this gonna be? Oh, then it's gonna be 5 books. No, I'm gonna end it at 9. I'm gonna end it at 10. And it was like, no. This is the last book. I'm writing the last book right now. The Memory of Light. It's the last book, and even that was 3 books. It was, it was because I think that's in a case of where the plot got away from him. He built too big of a world with too many plots that there was going to be no way to, and this is, I guess, a writer's challenge, right? Is that it got so far out of hand that there was no way for him to conceivably be able to get all of this plots and subplots tied off in a nice way, right? Within the time frame that he initially set, and each time it was like it just kept on adding books because as he was trying to tie off some threads, he was introducing new ones.
Yeah.
And then just 15 books later.
As a
15 books and 30 years later. 2 authors.
It's just an anecdote. I wrote Nightmare Arcanist actually quite some time ago, and I gave it to my agent because I was hoping to like sell it to a publisher or something. But the couple editors that got back to me wanted so many changes to the story, and a lot of changes, like weird fundamental changes, that where I was like, "That's what?"
Like, I'm curious, like, what were some of? I'm not sure if you're allowed to share, but like, what would some of the changes that they were suggesting? For Nightmare Arcanist, I'm really curious about that.
One of the changes was, I won't share all of them because some of them I feel like, I probably shouldn't ever really say aloud. But one of them was that they wanted to change the mystery with Ruma. So, and I put mystery in quotes because my synopsis, the blurb for the book is basically like, hey man, Ruma's probably evil.
Yeah.
And even in the novel itself, I mean, I guess spoiler alert if you ever read Nightmare Arcanist, but
if you're watching the Coliseum Arcanist stream, I'm pretty sure you read Nightmare Arcanist. I'm just gonna take a shot in the dark.
So he's doing dubious things, and one of the editors wanted me to change it so that it was like more of a Harry Potter style mystery where there's like a lot of red herrings. Like he specifically wanted red herrings written into the novel, that it wasn't Ruma in the end, etc. Like it was rewriting the story in such a way where I was like, that's not.
They wanted to Snape him.
I mean, I could write you this book, but it's a different book.
So they wanted him to be Snape.
Yeah.
Where every time Snape did it. No, Snape didn't do it. No, Snape did it. Oh, it turns out Snape didn't do it.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. It felt like wanting a Harry Potter style mystery with like, again, the notes back to me were like, hey, this is a great story, except I need a lot of red herrings, and Ruma shouldn't be the guy in the end. We should all just think it is, and then it should be somebody else. And I'm like, that's not really the book I wrote, but okay. Anyway, I got edits like that, and I just decided not to do them for a variety of reasons. Mostly because I had just finished working with an editor on a different novel, and I didn't enjoy working with them. Maybe I'm just a difficult person to work with. Maybe you should just tell me, Brian, if I'm over here making
not even a little
bit. I'm doing crazy things or something, but I was just like, I'll just do it myself. And I feel like that's been the best decision I've ever done. I've really enjoyed just writing it myself and just putting it out there and being like, I mean, obviously I want to tell a fun story that everybody's having a good time with, but I feel like I wanted to stick to my guns on that like major, outlet of like 5 books, and I feel like it's better for it.
And you raised an interesting point there, and is that you had said, you just wanted to do it, and you're kind of tired of jumping through all the hoops of traditional publishing and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if a lot of people know this about the amount of work that you are putting in still, in terms of revising, beta readers, having people read the book, and making sure that beyond just making sure that it's proofread, but making sure that the book works, making sure that the story works by allowing other people to read it first. And I can say from my experience on the audiobook side of it, where I'm working exclusively with independent authors right now, that
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of them do it. And people just think, oh,
Uh,
self-publish, it's amazing. I wrote my stuff and now the world can write. It's like, no, you don't understand. You still have a lot of work that needs to be done to get this story into shape for people to actually see it.
yeah, I'm a part of a writers group, like a bunch of authors that get together and talk about their work. So other authors read my stuff first, to talk about story structure and things that normal readers don't usually think of, like um, chapter structure and character arc structure. And
Mm-hmm.
I know this is, if there are any authors watching, but how many adverbs are in the chapter, stupid stuff like that.
How many
And then I
similes are in a
have
sentence?
something like that, yeah. And then we have, then I have beta readers and proofreaders, people who get back to me either just looking at grammar, or beta readers are usually just people who read the book for fun and then let me know if they enjoyed it, or let me know if there were parts that they didn't enjoy, or if anything was really boring. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if any beta reader gets back to me and be like, I was really bored with this, I'll typically re-examine the entire section to make sure that this is what I want. I mean, sometimes beta readers give you feedback where you're like, oh, this is just their individual personal bias. So I had
Mm-hmm.
a beta reader once who really hated fight scenes. Like, she was like, I don't like
Okay.
fight scenes. I skip over fight scenes. Fight scenes are lame. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but I like fight scenes. I like them, so I'm gonna keep them in there. But as an author, I guess I have to judge what I'm gonna put in and what I'm not gonna put in. So,
Yeah.
but I do go through all the steps that any traditional published book goes through.
And I
I've
think
had
that's, yeah. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say I've had a couple books that were traditionally published where my agent sold them to a publisher, and that's the exact steps that it goes through. It goes through
Mm-hmm.
like an editor, and then like a secondary editor, and then proofreaders, and then they have their own like in-house beta readers, really. And there's also somebody who usually does like continuity checks or fact checking. I
Mm-hmm.
had I did a crime series, and the fact checker with the publishing house would go through and like look up every single gun I referenced, every single car I referenced, to make sure that it looked like how I described it in the book, or that
Mm-hmm.
it was a real gun slash car. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks, continuity guy. That was really nice of you.
But I mean, that's like the double-edged sword of self-publishing, right? Is that, and I'll say we could see it on the same. We see a similar function on the voiceover side of things, where that before the advent of the internet, if you wanted to be a writer, you had to you had to have talent, or at least have honed your craft. One or the other. I'm not going to say that. There's probably very untalented, very successful writers who are very good at what they do, even great, because they work their ass off at it. And there's some that could just sit down and crank out a book, but all of them are still going through this process, right? And before the internet, it was, if you wanted to get traditionally published, you had to have a lot of this ready to go, and you had to go through all these hurdles. It was the same thing in voiceover, where you had to um, you had to have access to the equipment, if nothing else, because you did not have it at home without investing tens of thousands of dollars. And where you got the work, it was the same thing. At the 20 years ago, if you did not have a literary agent, odds are you were not getting published. And it was very similar in voiceover. Either you were out there knocking on doors yourself, where you had an agent, and that was the only way you were getting work. Now we fast forward to now, with the advent of the internet, and the equipment has gotten much less expensive. Everyone thinks they can do voiceover the same way everyone thinks they could be an author, and they don't go through the same hurdles and checks that you need to go through, like editing, proofreading, beta reading, all of that stuff. Same thing on my side of things, where people aren't going and getting a training, they're not getting the proper equipment, and probably from some of the auditions that you heard when you first did when you did Nightmare Arcanist, and from one book in particular, which will remain unnamed, we can see what happens when someone might have a quote unquote good voice, but they lack the skill, the aptitude in order to actually produce audio. And that's something that I think if we do have anyone that listens to this now or hears this or at some point in the future sees this, it's like, take the time to do these things. You know, to if you want to be a writer, learn how to write. Have someone read it. And don't be afraid, because what if they don't like it? Well, you kind of need to know that.
Well, yeah, I definitely recommend, I guess, if anybody's trying to become an author themselves, or, you know, even if you want to be traditionally published, like I'm not even talking about any publisher, even if you want to be traditionally published, I suggest that you join like a writer's group so that you can talk to other authors. Hopefully a writer's group where there's somebody who's further along in the process than you, you know, so they can definitely help you with, like, with some of the nuances in writing. I mean, like every profession, there's always these insider things that you would never know until you were, you know, in the industry itself. And you're like, okay.
Well, we're coming up on the 8 o'clock hour here, Eastern.
But I would definitely recommend it.
I'm sorry, you broke up there. Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, last time we...
Twitch was behaving so well.
Got together for your podcast. Any sort of like, then we need to come up with weird things.
Twitch was behaving so well up until this point. Why?
Oops, the Zoom knew we were supposed to be getting off.
Or not Twitch. It was yeah, it's Zoom. Zoom's not misbehaving, is it? I don't know. It's all misbehaving. Well, I guess we'll put out a final shout out to the audience here. If anyone has any questions, we have a couple people who are still watching, a few people. So if you have any other questions you'd like to drop for Shami or for myself, have you released the title of the next book in the series? And we're met by silence.
The fifth book?
Oh,
sorry.
Are we on
book? Book?
Wait, Dread Pirate. All right, Nightmare, Dread Pirate, Coliseum, right? So we're on book 4? Yeah. Right? So have you released that name? I know, I mean, obviously I know it because I've got it sitting right there. And
book 4 is titled Plague Arcanist.
The Plague Arcanist. So, and...
well, I'm pretty sure if somebody is asking this, they're asking about the 5th book.
Man, Zoom is really, really breaking down right now. We're hearing a lot of it, a lot of the dropout. Annie, thank you very, very much for the compliment.
If they're asking about the 5th book, the title of the 5th book is World Serpent Arcanist.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh. I will say that you did throw me for a plot loop in Coliseum Arcanist. Well. You threw me for a loop in Coliseum Arcanist. And again, I'm not going to spoil anything. We're just teasing little things here. That there was a character in the book that I think would really be related to that 5th book title, and I was wrong. And I was very pleasantly surprised. So, are we back?
Well, it just automatically reconnected, so.
Oh, that's good. I guess the thing broke down. But I was saying how there's a character in Coliseum Arcanist that I thought you were teasing out to be a major player in book 5. And I'm not saying that they are not going to be a major player, but I thought they were going to fulfill a certain role, and now they are not going to fulfill a certain role. And it was a very pleasant. Well, we'll talk off stream about it. We don't want to give anything away about the fun action, the fun all the fun stuff that's going to be in Coliseum Arcanist. So
Spoil everything.
yeah, spoil everything.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I mean, so the book itself, paperback, is it available in hardback now? Man, Zoom is being terrible. So it is available as paperback through Amazon and through other booksellers, I believe. You can also get now the audiobook on Audible. And I know Audible pushes out to iTunes, so you might be able to get Coliseum Arcanist on iTunes as well. And I highly recommend that you do that. That you go ahead and get that, and you get to hear Shami's wonderful words, and you get to hear me make silly noises with my face. And that's pretty much how that goes. Cool.
I recommend it too.
Completely unbiased opinion here. I guess if we want to tease a little bit further, is there anything that you're looking forward to, either people's reactions or hearing, I'm going to be selfish for a second, voice-wise, in Plague Arcanist?
Okay.
I cannot hear anything. Well, I'm going to say this. It's 8:05. Twitch is being terrible. Oh, okay. Does she have an answer?
I guess I'm really interested. Yeah. Well, I don't think that it's answering very well, but the ending to all of the books is always my favorite.
I am looking forward to it. I will say that for the folks who have not read it yet or listened to it yet, Coliseum Arcanist has a fantastic ending. I will just leave it at that. So go get it. And here we have a question here from what's dope, son. I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name there. For Shami, I have mad respect for the work that you do. Not really a question, still something to mention. For Brian, is there any word that you stumble on pronouncing correctly sometimes? For me, it's decision. Similarly and regularly. I can say it right now, but you put it in a sentence, and I cannot say it. Similarly and regularly. It comes up regularly, and I get completely tongue twisted. And hello, greetings from Germany.
Hey.
Hello, Germany. Hello. Good Nacht. Is this mein Freund? Mein Freund Christian Franz? Yeah? We'll find out. We have a little bit of a delay, but I'm hoping it. Nah, he goes by something else in there. So, or is it my friend Thomas? So we have a friend from Germany. His name's Thomas, and he's a perfectly normal person up until he speaks to Americans. In which case, then he puts on this German accent that's very, very thick, and he gets very, very smarmy with it. And everything sounds funny and smarmy.
Yes,
and,
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, he is a funny, funny dude. Yes. Yeah. Do we have anything else that we really need to share here, aside from go out and get the book?
Yeah.
Awesome. Shami, this has been fun, and hopefully it will not be 82 days when we complete production on Plague Arcanist. Hopefully it will not be 82 days before that gets released.
Right. Hopefully it just comes out when it's supposed to come out, and that would be great.
That would be amazing. But we live in interesting times, so we will see. So yep. I think that the real challenge will be is if one of these times we go to release something and it turns out that George R.R. Martin is able to beat us to it. We'll just have to see how that goes. So
yeah.
Well, for everyone who's been watching on my stream, thank you very much for joining us. I really, truly appreciate it. You can see, go ahead and follow me at the St. Brian on Twitter, and you can find me on most of the time, actually all the time, on the Eat, Drink, Roll Twitch channel, where we have some programming throughout the week. We have a D&D game. We've got one of our guys that does a breakdown build-up of laptops and whatnot. He also does retro gaming. And then on Saturday nights, we have now the Saturday Night Fights with myself and Neil, where we play remotely. We play collectible card games. We've been playing Transformers. So if everyone wants to tune in, Shami, where can people find you?
Obviously, they can find me on Twitter. I have the handle at GameOverStation because I liked it. It has nothing to do with being an author, but you know, there you go. And on Facebook, just Shami Stovall author will easily find you all my things. I've got a Facebook page. I've got a group. I mean, you can just Google my name. Most of my things show up, so it's, you know, it's there.
Well, do that and follow both of us, and we'll have to do this again. Hopefully,
Yeah,
with less technological leprosy, which I'm going to take complete blame for. So, I'm going to take my stream down in just a moment here. I'm going to play one last video for people to watch, and then I don't know what you want to do on your end, but so if you just want to see a fun little video, and then we will see you guys soon. Thank you very much for tuning in.